Hello, we are group 3. My name is Jolie Baldwin. My group members are Joey Cody, Margaret Carter, and Lordy Joseph. And our agency is called The Center. Next slide.
When we were given this exciting assignment to develop a clinical mental health agency, we were excited, but also nervous. We didn't really know where to start. So luckily we had that lined up for us or spelled out for us. We all four were in agreement about what population we wanted to serve, and that was marginalized BIPOC youth in the Seattle, Washington area. So now that we've gone through this process, we can't wait to get started on the Pacific Northwest's freshest youth counseling agency, the Center, PLLC, located at 92 Lenora Street in Seattle.
There was several alarming statistics that gave rise to our call to action. Youth ages 12 to 17 who have experienced a major depressive episode has doubled in the past decade. BIPOC youth have the highest rates of depression, and suicide is the third most common cause of death among Black men ages 15 to 24. We feel called to combat the mistrust, stigma, and lack of access that prevent BIPOC youth from seeking mental health care. Next slide.
Our mission is to empower marginal teens between the ages of 10 to 21 in the Seattle, Washington area to recognize and help them recognize their worth. Also, to help those youth with their mental health, mostly through group therapy. We also have individual counseling for those youth who need the extra help. Our vision, we will have culturally competent therapists help those marginal teens who need individual therapy. Our group therapy will be coupled with art/music therapy, drama therapy, sports therapy, and social emotional learning group, or SEL. These groups will be held during the week at specific schools, ranging from elementary schools to high schools. We will also be giving our clients an extra opportunity on Saturdays to join one of the groups. We also have Sunday Fun Day once a month to help educate our clients, parents on different topics. Next slide.
Our agency, the Center, has 6 values that we go by. These values are diversity. Our professionals will be culturally aware and competent when working with our clients. Respect. We will treat both our clients and our colleagues with respect for their rights, values, dignity, and privacy. Honor. We'll treat our clients with dignity regardless of the circumstance. And we'll also treat our employees with high quality professionals and appreciate their ideas and contributions. Ethics and integrity will conduct our agency and ourselves in accordance with the most recent documentation of the American Counseling Association Code of Ethics and HIPAA. Excellence will uphold a standards of excellence throughout the agency with processes put in place to ensure the best practices and assessments, treatments, and improvement. Efficiency will establish and maintain efficient ways to meet our goals without compromising quality of care and ethics. Next slide.
Art therapy is a form of therapy involving the use of art materials or art activities. What it helps is those healing from PTSD by allowing them to express their emotions. Music therapy, we will discuss their favorite songs and lyrics, etc. This also helps those suffering from PTSD. And we will do that in alternate weeks just to keep everything fresh. Next slide.
Just like music and visual art, drama therapy is a medium that has been around for thousands of years. But in this context, it can really encourage exploration, peer bonding, social skill building, reduction of anxiety, and also increasing confidence in our young people. A drama therapist, Cruz, has noted that the arts help people come to terms with trauma, enhance their way of thinking, and also it's fun, which is something that everyone needs. Drama therapy is particularly good for behavior and attention problems and ASD, autism spectrum disorder. It also improves symptoms of serious emotional disabilities, which can include anxiety, depression, self-harming, or other psychosomatic effects. Most notably, our BIPOC boys and young men have limited outlets for expression, appropriate expression, and it helps to have an artistic process to help them become unblocked. The nicest thing about drama therapy is that you don't have to want to be on stage or even perform in a production if you don't want to act or be exposed in that way. You can still participate and be creative through screenwriting, through designing sets and building sets, and also theater, improv, theater and other improv games.
There are many benefits to youth participating in sports. Some of these benefits are decreasing depression and anxiety symptoms, developing self-regulation, building physical strengths, improving self-esteem, and also decreasing stress. Our main goal of using sports therapy with the youth population is to help them find safe, healthy, and positive outlets and coping mechanisms to deal with the problems they face on a daily. Since our agency will be working with the marginal youth population, this means that the youth that we'll be working with will come from different cultures, backgrounds, and upbringings. This is why we plan on making sure that anyone who wants to participate in sports therapy will be included. We'll do this by adjusting schedules so our youth are not forced to choose between participating in the sports and their culture, adjusting uniforms so that our youths can comfortably take part in the sport with their teammates, making modifications to games, and also accommodating for those with disabilities. Next slide.
Our program is designed to meet children and adolescents where they are. Research shows that social emotional learning programs reduce behavior problems and psychological distress. Our program will run from 4 to 6 p.m. We will do certain activities such as mood charts to explore emotions and feelings. We'll do a flower activity to promote a flower craft activity to promote positive self-talk. And we will also help children and adolescents develop SMART goals. The 5 main components of social emotional learning are self-management, social awareness, self-awareness, relationships, and decision-making. Because we will be working with BIPOC youth, we must reimagine how social emotional learning is currently being implemented and dismantle systems of oppression while working with diverse populations. Next slide.
Business entity PLLC. What is a PLLC? A PLLC stands for Professional Limited Liability Company, which offers personal asset protection for businesses with licensed occupations, including counselors. We will apply for a FEIN from the IRS. We will register the PLLC formation with the state of Washington using a Form RCW. And we will apply for a unified business identifier through the Washington State Department of Revenue. Next slide. Oh, if you want to, you can call the IRS, fax RX, or just email them. Have a great day. Next slide.
Professional liability insurance. Our agency will be using Healthcare Providers Service Organization for both our business insurance and also our liability insurance for our counselors. Some of the coverage provided to businesses are malpractice risk, property destruction, cyber breach, telehealth, and work-related employee injuries. For counselors, the liability insurance coverage are malpractice lawsuits, license protection, subpoena requests, professional liability, information privacy, fines and penalties, and many more. Next slide. Our agency will make sure that the employees and the technology we use are up to code with HIPAA and high tech. Our agency will follow the standards put in place to protect our clients' privacy and also how we share and store information about them. For EHRs, our agency will be using therapy notes, which will provide us with a scheduling and calendar system, HIPAA compliant documents, secure session notes, medical billing, insurance claims, and also telehealth system. We will make sure that our technology is up to date with the standards of HIPAA and high tech. Our agency will have protocols put in place and also technology management set up to make sure that our technology and also our software that we're using are secure when it comes to our clients' data. We'll have passwords and fingerprint authorizations, a remote data wipe feature, disabling file sharing applications, using the use of up-to-date secure softwares, deleting all data when exchanging devices or disposing or getting rid of old devices, and also not using public Wi-Fi network unless the device has an encryption app. Next slide.
The licensing requirements for Washington are supervised by the Department of Health. The requirements for the state of Washington to become a LMHC, the person has to first graduate with a master's degree in mental health counseling or behavioral science from a nationally accredited college, complete 3,000 hours of postgraduate supervision with 1,200 hours of direct counseling services and 100 hours of direct supervision. They must pass the NCE and the NCMHCE examinations and must complete 36 hours of continuing education every 2 years. Our agency will only employ LMHCs who are in good standing with the state of Washington. Next slide.
For insurance credentialing, we would probably go with one of the largest providers in the Pacific Northwest, Kaiser Permanente, which also happens to be highly rated for mental health care in particular. For free or low-cost care, Kaiser works with Apple Health, which is coordinated through Molina Healthcare, and that is Washington's Medicaid managed care organization. Kaiser is one of the country's largest not-for-profit health plans with 12.6 million members. So there's a lot of availability with physicians and offices and hospitals. We also learned, though, that credentialing is very competitive, especially more so now with the Affordable Care Act, and then access for counselors to file claims for Medicare and Medicaid, in addition to telehealth platforms. To help us navigate this process, if we were to accept insurance, we would probably consult with a company like Client Fit Technology, which would help walk us through all the particulars for making sure we are set up properly with the paperwork and the regulations.
Ethical standards, policies, and procedures. Standard A.2 equals informed consent. A.2C equals developmental and cultural sensitivity. A.2D equals inability to give consent. Standard A3 is coordinating care. Standard B5 equals minor clients. Our B5A is responsibility to clients. B5B is responsibility to parents and legal guardians. B5C equals release of confidential information. Next slide.
At the center, we also will include policies for court-mandated clients. Our agency will provide services to youth who are in diversion programs or on probation. Each client will be properly informed that certain things will have to be shared with judges and probation officers. Other ethical considerations, clients will have the right to refuse services, and counselors will properly explain to clients the consequences of refusing services. Counselors must treat clients with dignity and respect, regardless of the nature of their crimes or offenses. And because we will be working with minors, we will also inform their guardians of the repercussions of making credible threats during sessions. And if our clients should need a higher level of care, we will refer out to other services. Next slide.
Record keeping and budget. Our monthly budget, our rent for a school space, because you do have to rent the spaces in the schools, and our office space, it will equal about $3,500 a month. Our therapy notes, which handles our patients' records and billing, equals $149. Therapy sites, which is a website that's going to set up our website, and help us with our advertising by giving us 6 months free with APA, or it's going to cost us $59 a month. We need a CPA to make sure that we're well with the state of Washington and well with the IRS. And that cost is to be determined by the CPA. Next slide.
In terms of third-party reimbursement, most psychotherapists and counselors in training are reluctant business persons. Knapp and Van de Creek put it this way: we consider the business side to be a necessary evil that allows us to do what we really love, which is psychotherapy or counseling. Unfortunately, we have fallen behind in comparative compensation due to inflation, the cost of protecting ourselves legally, and other market and regulatory changes. So if we decide to work with insurance panels, some of the downsides are that you have a lack of control. You don't get to pick and choose your clients as much. Fair compensation, you may have reduced claims or no payment at all toward that claim. Perhaps wasted time with the paperwork, sometimes disrupted therapy for your clients, and also stigmatization, because most insurance panels require a diagnosis of some sort from the DSM-5. Some of the benefits of being a self-pay agency is that we can choose the clientele we want. We might be working less, getting paid more, although that's not likely as a startup agency of this type. And we can also specialize and become known in our community for a specific service. We also need to consider the American Counseling Association Code of Ethics. Kaiser Permanente has their own standards as well, especially for counselors in training, which they call associates. Washington also has its code regarding how to go about third-party reimbursement. And also the American Psychological Association has its mandates for good faith estimate, which has now become law, which complicates matters. So again, we would probably work with a clearinghouse of some sort to help us navigate all these hurdles and make sure we had our legal ducks in a row.
Financial planning for private practices is often the most difficult when establishing a counseling business. The counselor must consider the expenses of establishing a practice as well as establishing funds. We decided our agency will implement a sliding scale fee based on clients' needs. We modeled our sliding scale fees from another mental health agency in Washington. Our agency will be offering individual and group therapy income-based sliding scale rates Basic fees include $50 for a 50-minute intake session, $120 for a 50-minute individual session, and $35 for a 50-minute group session. We will look at the Washington income poverty level and annual gross income before taxes to figure out fees for our 50-minute sessions. Next slide.
Crisis prevention. Everyone knows we have, there's a lot of things that's going on, man-made crisis, things like disgruntled clients, school shooters. What we plan to do to prevent some of these things is to get a security door that won't allow anyone with a knife or a gun to come in. We have wearable panic buttons. So when we're out in the field in our schools, we can push it, and if there's a medical need or somebody tries to hijack our space. But the basic thing we're going to try to do is do the mend training, which allows us to learn the de-escalation training. And we also have the telephones. So if we need to use a code word, we can put it on speaker, and other people in our agency will be able to help us. When Mother Nature has crises, we have snow that melts that causes avalanche. The avalanche season in Washington starts about February and ends about the beginning of summer. And there's other weather things we have to take into consideration, like the fires, and we just need to pay attention to the weather. And whatever we don't pay attention to, we could also get a guide from the state of Washington that help us tell us what to do in those cases. Next slide.
We plan on providing 5 outreach services to the community living in Seattle, Washington. The first one is shelters. Since we are working with the marginal community, people who are part of this community are at higher risk of experiencing homelessness compared to white people, largely due to the long-standing historical and structural racism. We'll partner up with the Office of Homeless Youth, which helps to provide temporary housing, assessment referrals, and secure centers for youth ages 12 to 17 who are in conflict with their family, have ran away from home, or whose health and safety is at risk. The next outreach service is medical and dental checkup. We'll partner up with both the Swedish Community Specialized Clinic and Rota Care Free Clinic. They provide healthcare services for free to those who cannot afford it. The third service we'll be providing is clothing drives. We will donate clothes to lower income schools for students, have coat drives before winter season starts so that kids will have coats to keep them warm when going to school, and also have a large clothing drive right before school starts where kids and teens can come pick out their own clothes with their families for free. The fourth thing is food insecurities. Just like clothing drives, we will have food drives every couple of months posted at the agency. And if one of our youths are currently fighting food insecurities at home, we will provide them with a food bag every month to take home. The last service is educational support. We will hold fundraisers once a year to raise money for books, supplies, and technology for lower income schools, and we'll also help provide tutoring sessions to our youth who need it. Next slide.
To prepare for community emergencies, our agency will take up membership with the King County Multidisciplinary Crisis Response Team. King County has a mobile crisis response team that consists of 43 mental health professionals, police officers, firefighters, and EMTs. The mobile unit provides 24/7 in-person response to crisis situations and events. Our therapists will rotate on-call schedules to take turns responding to crisis situations. As we all know, trauma within the United States is a public health problem. It is estimated that 5 out of every 10 individuals will be exposed to a major stressor or traumatic event during their lifetime. It is important for counselors to keep in mind that recovery from trauma is not a linear process. To meet the needs of clients of all ages, our counselors will take continuing education credits on how to provide trauma-informed care across the lifespan. Next slide.
Of course, we must also prepare for any internal crises that may occur. Being in the line of work that we are, it's very likely we will be dealing with suicide or the threat of suicide. Wherever people gather, there should be a crisis plan in place, and where our business will be no different. Regarding suicide, going back to what Jolie said about our ethical duty to provide detailed, informed consent, would go along with a suicide, along with other techniques for basically just being aware. We want to prevent, of course, rather than treat when we can. So being very aware of signs and knowing our clients very well. We must also prepare for active shooter. There are several training programs available, and we would also partner with local law enforcement and authorities so that we would know the surrounding area as well as exits and hiding places in our own facility for ourselves and our clients. We also have a duty to protect, especially since we will be working with children and young people. So basic first aid and maybe even advanced first aid is something that would be part of our training. There's specialized training for heart attack, stroke, and then programs like Stop the Bleed are for bleeding and trauma, which would also help us if we ever had an incident of an active shooter or suicide attempt. Most importantly, we have to monitor ourselves for signs of impairment. And if we see it in ourselves or our colleagues, it's our duty to inform and prevent them from offering services during those times, because we, of course, want to first do no harm.
We will be working with the Seattle Public Schools. Stats for Seattle Public Schools are over 50,000 students from pre-K to 12th grade, 86% graduation rate. The mental health department is our main focus we'll be working with. They have 30 school-based mental health centers, and they help with a multitude of things, so like suicide and sexual abuse. They have a 24-hour crisis line, phone line, and they also have a 24-hour text crisis line. Next slide.
Rider is an organization that provides services to the youth within the Washington area. Some of the professionals that work with Rider that we might be working with are youth partners. They are like mentors, role models, and also big brothers and sisters to the youth. Social workers, paraeducators, they're there to help support kids within the classroom that needs one-on-one, caseworkers, and psychologists. Some of the service that Rider might provide to the clients that we will be working with is applied behavior analyst, ABA for short, which is a therapy based on science of learning and behavior. This is mostly done with kids who are on the spectrum, who have TBIs or other development disorders. The next service they provide is wraparound with intense service, which is an approach to help children, youth, and their families with intense mental health care. They also provide psychiatric ARNP and also intense outpatient DBT. Next slide.
Another organization we will partner with is the King County Juvenile Division, and also an organization, a partnership called Team Child. We support the KCJD's rehabilitative services, which include alternative schools, the Alternatives to Secure Detention program, which is their new electronic home monitoring program. And most importantly, the Zero Juvenile Detention Initiative. So for alternative schools, we work with Seattle's Interagency Academy, their Adler Academy, and also Youth Source, which all three of those schools have slightly different focuses. And the center will contribute to the Zero Juvenile Detention Initiative primarily through three of their objectives: prevention, diversion, and support. Additionally, another partner is Team Child, and their goal is to, one, reduce the disproportionate presence of youth of color and also youth with disabilities in the juvenile justice system. Two, mitigate negative consequences of being involved in court or perhaps incarceration. And three, improve the quality and access to legal representation for kids.
As counselors, it is an important part of our duty to advocate for our clients. It is our job to be agents of social change and intervene in the lives of our clients and the world around us. Our agency would like to advocate for our clients who are in the foster care system. 80% of children in foster care have experienced significant mental health issues in the United States. Children in the foster care system experience complex trauma, frequent transitions, broken families, and inconsistent access to health care. Therefore, we intend to work with the National Conference of State Legislature on their Child Welfare Project to track legislation related to the mental health of children in foster care. We will hold annual fundraisers to hire lobbyists to petition the legislature. Next slide.
In conclusion, although the path to creating the center may be rocky, it will ultimately be fulfilling. And along the way, we must always remember that in essence, our role as therapists is to convey, I see and hear you. I want to understand you. And I value you and what you have to say. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Here are our references. Thank you again for listening to our presentation. We hope that you support and contribute to the center's opening.